Ubisoft's collapse just got better. I know. It's not Christmas, but it somehow happened. Ubisoft is an absolute amazing company at making completely shit games that no one cares about, no one wants, and failing everything surrounding them, aka Assassin's Creed and everything they have done in the last 15 years. But Ubisoft is really talented at making their situation a lot worse, which again is seriously hard to do with such regularity, but they are at least experts at something.
The situation has gone from worse to dire for Ubisoft as they face adversity on all fronts. I mean, gamers are starting to lose faith in Ubisoft's ability to kind of really push boundaries and be creative. Media outlets and games industry pundits
Starting, anyone who had not lost faith in Ubisoft in the last 5 years, please, in the comments, line out so we can see if you really exist. Everyone has already lost faith in them. And again, what is this creativeness bullshit? I think people like Young Yahoo don't probably actually play any games at all constantly go for this. Oh, the games are not groundbreaking creative. That's why they're bad. Yeah, that sounds like an opinion of someone who literally hasn't played a single game in the last 10 years of his life, okay? Baldur's Gate 3, one of the most vastly successful games in forever. Zero innovation. Absolutely not a single peep of innovation, in fact. It literally just did something really good, and it gave us a bunch of options, and we loved it. Zero innovation. Absolutely none. It didn't do a single unique thing. Helldivers 2. The biggest innovation that game did was allow you to drop pods on your friend's head and kill them, which was hilarious, but not exactly an innovation. Also, Black Myth Wukong. You could turn into a cicada, which is kind of cool, I guess. But again, zero innovation. Elden Ring, negative 373 billion points in innovation. Literally does absolutely nothing to innovate. In fact, it pushes back on innovation. Absolutely amazing game, though, by most standards. Innovation is nice and all, but innovation is not going to make games succeed.
pundits don't particularly like the way executives have been treating their IPs, their studios, their employees, and developers. And now investors are pissed off that Ubisoft just isn't offering a lot of information and a good path forward for investors to be able to make money off of their investment. So if you look at Ubisoft right now and what their stock price looks like, you can see that it's quite literally the low.
Beautiful. I have never seen anything like this that gets me this hard, okay? Life is full of surprises, boys. One day you're fucking a gorgeous MILF, and the second day she says, oops, turns out I could get pregnant. And graphs like this. Oh, the graphs, boys. Now that is the best.
We've seen it in a very long time, and that's a combination of numerous factors, including game delays, game flops, game cancellations, studio shutdowns, layoffs that have like negatively impacted Ubisoft in ways that, it would be tough for Ubisoft to recover from. Things are so dire that Tencent and the Guillemot family, who are the majority owners of Ubisoft, are thinking about taking the company private via a buyout, and there are turmoils there as well for Ubisoft.
Yeah, so it turns out the Tencent buyout thing is most likely gonna happen. Now, though, EA, which would be hilarious, I want EA to actually buy this, and Microsoft are thinking, maybe we should buy Ubisoft. Yes, that is the newest thing that I have heard. I don't know if Young's gonna actually touch on that. But yes, Microsoft and EA are in the forerunning of maybe buying Ubisoft. But in any case, that was, by the way, a hidden thing that they kept hidden from investors, which is kind of wild, honestly. But whatever. I want EA to buy Ubisoft because EA is very, very close to complete collapse also. EA is not making money. They lost their FIFA license, to use the word FIFA, which means, uh, sports ball players only care about the names, not actually who makes the game or whatever. They have lost so much. And buying Ubisoft would literally be just money set ablaze in a giant bonfire, which would be hilarious. So if EA could buy Ubisoft, we could maybe get actually rid of EA.
With Tencent trying to take a bigger piece of the pie, but Ubisoft not wanting that to happen. And then Ubisoft has had to go out and tell investor things like the following statement during a financial briefing. This is from January 9th, 2025, where they highlighted how they have appointed leading advisors to review and pursue various transformational, strategic, and capitalistic options to extract the best value for stakeholders. Similarly, this is another statement from Ubisoft's boss, Yves Guillemot, who said, "We have..."
The language, by the way, it doesn't need to be that corporately evil, but I think it's specifically intentionally chosen to be that kind of corporate greedy evil style. It is insane. Extract most value from for shareholders. Again, I think the biggest problem with gaming is the fact that most companies are just publicly traded companies, and line always must go up. Look at Valve. Valve is getting more money just because they are in the long term of getting more money, but none of these companies can actually do that. Sad.
Have taken decisive steps to reshape the group in order to deliver best-in-class player experiences, enhance operational efficiency, and maximize value creation. We also recently appointed leading advisors and are actively exploring various strategic and capitalistic options to unlock the full value potential of our assets.
Unlock full value of assets. Jesus.
We're convinced that there are several potential paths to generate.
And this is not unlocking the full assets, okay? This is where the problem with being a publicly traded company actually comes into the gaming sphere. The gaming sphere is all about effectively looking into the future, honestly. All the companies, Baldur's Gate 3, Grinding Gear Games, Steam, and whatnot, all of these, Arrowhead, all of these companies made their games, they were successful, and then they looked into the future. When your typical publicly traded company gets a successful game, they just try to milk it as much as possible. And they erode player trust, they erode everything that this game could have had just for a little bit of a bump in the stock price. And the thing is, well, there are two ways to bump your stock price: grow your player base or grow your profits. And when you choose to grow your profits, most of the time when companies do it, it's by reducing the player base by making bad decisions. And that is not a long-term thing. In fact, it's a debt spiral. It's a complete debt spiral, because the less people you have, the less effective these monetary practices that you implement become. Which means that you need to bump these monetary practices up and up and up and up in severity. And the people just get lower and lower and lower. So one bar gets super low and the other bar gets super high. But that's what they need to do to appease shareholders.
Generate value from Ubisoft's assets and franchises. This is their attempt to essentially assuage the concerns and worries of investors by telling them that we're taking steps, we're getting advice from lead advisors, but it's also vague that investors are not convinced, and the fact that Ubisoft is being so vague has just raised a lot of questions. IGN itself reported on that same day, January 9th, that Ubisoft got grilled by investors during a financial briefing that happened around that time, with plenty of folks asking a lot of questions that Ubisoft refused to give answers to. And so the outlook surrounding Ubisoft in the eyes of investors is not good at all. Now, another investment firm that I want to highlight is this one right here, AJ Investments, specifically this individual, Jiraj Krupa, who issued the following letter to Ubisoft. this open letter in which he was very adamant about Ubisoft just not knowing what the hell they're doing. And so it reads right here, this statement from Krupa. As a significant minority shareholder in Ubisoft Entertainment via AJ Investments and our partners, we're writing to express our deep dissatisfaction with the current performance and strategic direction of the company. Scrolling further down, we have another quote to that effect where it reads right here, Ubisoft at current state is mismanaged and shareholders are hostages of the Guillemot family members and Tencent who take advantage of them. Management is focused on pleasing investors.
By the way, that's true. That's actually not an over-exaggeration. They are, because the thing is, all of these shareholders at this moment understand, well, we're literally at the fucking bottom. So even if we're never recuperating our losses, but we are at least going to get something back. So they need to do something that boosts the stock for a small period of time. And this is the key thing about Ubisoft and why the situation is so dire for them. Because almost all of the investors at this point are just looking for some kind of opportunity where people get hyped about Ubisoft and the shit that they do. So that the stock price just goes up a little bit for one day so they can finally sell off and dip off the sinking ship. And that's not happening. So they are pushing for something that's going to make it happen. And Ubisoft doesn't want to exactly make this happen like that because investors dipping in general is kind of bad in a lot of cases. So that's why they are pushing for a buyback, because a buyback buys stocks back at an inflated price with the current of the current thing. That's why you saw the small stock price bump up. And the reason why those investors don't sell at that moment, because if your stock is $2 and it goes to $3 because there's gonna be a buyback, well, the stock is gonna get bought at $3 plus something dollars, so they still make more money from it. And that's really, really bad. And they're just constantly pressuring Ubisoft to do something that's probably extremely bad for the long run, but extremely good for the stock in a single day so they can dip the fuck out. It is beautiful. Like, Ubisoft is unironically completely demolished from all sides. And again, I have to mention the Tencent thing here, because a lot of people were, and they're still doing it. Oh, Tencent calculated this. They want to buy out Ubisoft. First of all, Tencent did not actually, Tencent was never in the business of actually buying out companies and managing them. Tencent was in the business of, oh, this is a really prosperous game and has a lot of future prospects. We're going to invest in, we're going to buy like 20% into that company or more, but we're not going to do anything to that company. Like, they do what they did. We're not going to say you do this, do that. No. You keep doing what you do, boo, because you're making money. That's what Tencent did. All of this is not happening because Tencent just wants to buy Ubisoft out, okay? Tencent currently is pissed, by the way, because I don't know how some people think that Tencent actually, intended for this to happen to Ubisoft, because Tencent bought into Ubisoft when the stock prices were literally 4 times higher. 4 times higher than they are now. Which means they have just lost 75% of their investment for fucking nothing. If Tencent wanted to buy Ubisoft, they could have waited until this crash happens and then start buying it out. Tencent bought into Ubisoft because they thought that Ubisoft is going to do wonderful big things in the future and their stock price is going to go up. Not because they wanted to take over.
With beating quarterly results and not focusing on long-term strategy to provide exceptional experience for gamers. So this is an investor that seems to know that quality of games matters and that you have to think long-term and deliver.
Wait, what?
And that you have to invest to provide exceptions with beating quarterly results and not focusing on long-term strategy to provide exceptional experience for gamers. So
wait, what?
Tencent who take advantage of them. Management is focused on pleasing investors with beating quarterly results and not focusing on long-term strategy to provide exceptional experience for gamers. So this is an investor that seems to know that quality of games matters and that you have to think long-term and deliver in a long-term mentality instead of kind of trying to catch up constantly in the short term, which leads to the release of mediocre products, which is why he continues with, we cannot understand the decision-making process of current management that is focused on releasing multiple average games per year that are harming Ubisoft's reputation among gamers community instead of focusing to provide hit games within its exceptional franchise portfolio. And that's the painful part, is like Ubisoft has got a treasure trove of IPs and they just really don't seem to know how to take advantage of them, generating sort of bland or stale releases one after the other to the point where even major releases that are licensed like Avatar and Star Wars, even those projects are failing because people have kind of come to know what to expect from those titles. They all kind of utilize a similar enough formula where people don't feel that like excitement and that hype for Ubisoft games in the way that they once used to. So why do I bring up
No, it's just really shitty games. It's nothing to do with the formula.
all of these past instances of investors who have expressed their kind of disapproval and their admonishment against Ubisoft's recent strategies and the way management has dealt with the company? Well, this same individual from AJ Investments, Krupa, has come out and said months after releasing that September 2024 open letter that they're planning to essentially host a protest right outside Ubisoft's Paris HQ. This was reported by IGN on March 12, 2025. This is a statement that IGN noticed. Jiraj Krupa, CEO of
What?
AJ Investments, claimed Ubisoft is horribly mismanaged by current management and wants a clear roadmap for recovery from the senior team to address declining shareholder value, lackluster operational execution, and failure to adapt effectively to market trends. So pretty harsh words, but also not wrong at all. We've seen a lot of like employees and developers
Adopting to market trends, though, by the way, is not good because that still means live services. Everything is going to be made into, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That's what it means.
physically protest outside a company's headquarters and whatnot. I don't think I've ever seen a situation where investors have gotten so fed up that they themselves are planning to do like a physical protest outside of HQ, at least not in the gaming realm, or at least not in recent years. So this is kind of wild. Krupa's statement continues by alleging that Ubisoft has not been transparent about its decision-making, accusing the firm of hiding information, including an Assassin's Creed Mirage DLC partnership with the Saudi investment firm Savi Group. This wouldn't be the first time that Ubisoft has been condemned by shareholders and investors over just a general lack of transparency or concrete details about courses of action moving forward. In this IGN article from January 9th, 2025, where they reported that Ubisoft investors grilled the CEO and the CFO and just Ubisoft across the board, there are questions being asked here like, whether there are any concrete courses of action or scenarios that are being considered, or is this more of an exploratory kind of process, prodding for any sort of specifics on the part of Ubisoft? This is a question that was asked by somebody from Morgan Stanley, and Ubisoft just couldn't offer any concrete responses. The Morgan Stanley individual further elaborated that he wanted to know what was different about this announcement as opposed to past statements by Ubisoft about such exploration. So Ubisoft has been providing sort of very generic statements, assuring investors that, they're looking into things with professionals who will help them, guide them. But this being such a generic statement that very much seems to be about saying a lot of things, like saying a lot of words while saying absolutely nothing.
Does Young have eyelashes? Does he?
With them. A lot of just kind of disapproval and a lot of worries were expressed in this particular investors meeting. But yeah, you can see right here, anytime an investor or an investment group asked very specific questions, Guillermo would decline to comment or would provide a nothing burger of a generic response. Going back to Krupa's recent statement, something else he pointed out is this restricted article published by business investment platform Merger Market that alleged that apparently Microsoft, EA, and other publishers have been interested in acquiring IPs from Ubisoft, and that's seemingly something that
Oh, IPs? I thought they're gonna buy them. That would be even funnier. But yeah, again, Ubisoft. When I say the death of Ubisoft, like other people, when they say they actually think that Ubisoft is gonna shut their doors, chances of that happening are very low because someone's just gonna buy them. They're gonna sell. The reality is, what's gonna happen is Ubisoft's gonna get a full restructure, and then a lot of things are gonna be sold for parts. So yeah, People are probably interested in buying their IPs. Microsoft definitely would probably enjoy the idea of buying Assassin's Creed and pumping that shit out every year.
That Ubisoft has not, publicly disclosed to investors, or something that they've made a point to highlight, with Krupa specifically stating that management did not inform public about these steps either, which ties into Krupa's accusations of Ubisoft hiding information and not making the path forward clear, especially for investors who need some kind of insight into the future as to know whether they want to stay investors or whether they need to pull out and look to greener pastures. Folks at Krupa allege that Ubisoft is making it difficult for investors to make informed decisions because there's no information to make informed decisions off of. This investor is also not pleased with the way Ubisoft handled communication for the multiple delays that Assassin's Creed Shadows suffered, and as a result,
what kind of communications do you want to do? They don't. The moment Assassins, if Ubisoft stock is like worth one buckaroo at the moment, when Assassin's Creed Shadows launches, it's gonna be worth less than that. Okay, because man, I think Assassin's Creed Shadows could sell 2 million copies. That is super not much. That is very, very not much for an Assassin's Creed game. But I think the damage has been done. People are not looking forward to Assassin's Creed Shadows. It looks awful. It sounds awful. Everything about it seems completely fucking awful. Starting from the DEI cast of Black Super Asian Slayer. God, what is this, New York? And the Asian twink boy lady. I'm not even sure what that's supposed to be. And all of the things that just blatantly scream, we hate Japan. 10 out of 10. Obviously, people don't want to play that. Obviously, people don't want to buy that. I think this is going to be one of the worst selling Ubisoft games, well, Assassin's Creed games, ever.
Of those delays, they've seen severe stock declines within Ubisoft, which negatively impacted a lot of investors, noting that while certain types of investors might have benefited, others were negatively impacted, stating, quote, "These delays and revised guidances caused severe stock declines, which harmed mostly retail investors that have limited resources to manage their positions accordingly. This action benefited mainly corporate and institutional investors who are on the buy side for distressed prices, such as Credit Agricole, Goldman Sachs clients, Morgan Stanley, and others." The statement finally concludes with Krupa, representing Asia Investments as a whole, calling for investors to protest, saying that they've had enough, calling for anyone who is frustrated with the prolonged stagnation in Ubisoft's stock performance and the lack of decisive action from the management team to join its protest in May. Now, the reason they're not doing the protest now is because they want to give Ubisoft a bit of time to reverse course and to convince investors that...
Yeah, is this the first time an actual real-life protest happens? Because usually the shareholders just sue the company. I mean, that's probably what they're gonna do at some point, because they I mean, it's not gonna end well for Ubisoft, but that's a good thing. Anyway, that was Younger Yayer.
right here on
Yong,
Yeah.
Yong,
I'll see you
Yong,
guys next time.
Yong, Yong,
Yong, yeah.
Yong.